So welcome everyone, and thank you for joining my session today on Designing for Impact, combining UI principles and WCAG to create accessible Power BI reports and trying to figure out how to create shorter titles. So I'm really excited today to share how we can make Power BI reports more inclusive and impactful through accessibility. Before we dive into the content, let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Juliana Smith, and my background is in physical oceanography and data science. And I have over 15 years experience in tech across different sectors. Since 2020, I specialized in Power BI, and for the past 18 months, I have deep dived into AI design and WCAG framework. I'm currently moving jobs, so I'm going to have an update in a couple of weeks. And finally, I am the creator of the blog Smart Frames UI and the YouTube channel Accessible BI. In today's sessions, we're going to do a brief introduction to digital accessibility, and then we're going to talk about what is UI design and the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, also known for short WCAG, and then how we can integrate UI with WCAG. We're going to walk through the built-in accessibility features in Power BI and how to configure some of them, and then we're going to wrap up the session. So let's get started with an introduction to digital accessibility. So globally, over 1 billion people, or about 15% of the population, live with some form of disability. And digital accessibility aims to make websites, apps, and other digital experiences usable for everyone, regardless of their abilities and disabilities. And this means that all users should be able to perceive, understand, navigate, and interact with digital interfaces without facing any barriers. And by making digital products, including Power BI reports, accessible, we ensure that all individuals with disabilities can also access important information and services online. So we ensure access for all. We also promote inclusivity and equal opportunities for everyone in society. And ensuring digital accessibility also help organizations to comply with legal requirements, reducing the risk of lawsuits, and also helping to enhance reputation. And finally, digital accessibility enhances the user experience for everyone, and because it makes all the interfaces more intuitive and easy to navigate. In terms of laws and regulations, so digital accessibility is supported worldwide. So just to list a few examples, we have in the United States, we have the Americans with Disability Act and the Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act. In the European Union, we have the European Accessibility Act and the Web Accessibility Directive and the EN 301549. In the United Kingdom, where I am based, we have the Equality Act and the Public Sector Bodies Accessibility Regulations. In Australia, there is the Disability Discrimination Act. And Brazil, we have the Brazilian Law of Inclusion for persons with disabilities. So now you might be wondering why I'm talking about accessibilities and data visualization. So there are common accessibility challenges in terms of data visualizations or dashboards reports. So I'm going to use these to showcase some of these issues. So first we have cluttered user interface. So this is one of the primary culprits of poor accessibility. When our dashboards are overloaded or they have too many visuals, charts, and data points, it can become really overwhelming for users to process information. We also have inconsistent layout. So when the layout is inconsistent, users have to spend extra time and effort to understand the structure and to locate the information they need. And we also have poor alignment. So poor alignment of elements within these dashboards can lead to kind of a disjointed and confusing user experience. So misaligned visuals and text can create clutter and make it difficult for users to follow the flow of information. So as you can see here, there is this very chaotic example. I spent days trying to create something that looked really bad, highlighted some of the issues in terms of alignment, and I don't think I need to explain why it's cluttered. Moving on, another issue, another challenge includes no navigation. So effective navigation is essential for users to interact and understand Power BI dashboards or any other BI tool dashboard. When the dashboard lacks clear navigation paths, our users may struggle to find information they need. So they may feel disoriented and frustrated. And of course, this will lead to poor user experience. Something else that's a big problem is poor use of labels and titles. So labels and titles play a crucial role in making dashboards accessible. So when labels and titles are unclear, ambiguous, or missing, users may find it difficult to understand the context and the purpose of the visuals. And the poor use of labels and titles can also hinder screen readers from conveying information accurately, and this will further impact accessibility. And then we have something that's very common and it's hideous. So we have poor use of color contrast. So color contrast is a critical factor in ensuring that all users can read and understand the content on the dashboard. And when the contrast between text and background is not efficient, it will become very difficult for users with some visual impairments, such as color blindness or low vision, to distinguish and interpret the information. Poor color contrast ratio can also strain the eyes of all the users, regardless of abilities, and this will lead to fatigue and reduced comprehension. Another issue that we have is unreadable text size. So text size plays a crucial role in readability of your dashboard. When the text is too small, it can be challenging for users with visual impairments or those viewing the dashboard on smaller screens like phones or tablets. And unreadable text, of course, will lead to frustration and will also hinder the user's ability to interact with the dashboard effectively. And then there is something that's called tab order. So incorrect tab order can create confusion and frustration for users who rely on keyboard navigation and screen readers. When the tab order is not logical or intuitive, users may struggle to move through the dashboard efficiently, and they may end up missing information and interactive elements. So I tried to find a way to kind of simulate what it means. So that would mean that you would start, for example, consuming the report from a completely random visual. And if that visual doesn't have a proper title, it's going to be like, what is this about? And you keep moving around and you still don't know what the dashboard is about until you finally can get what the title and other cues that may indicate what is this report about. So it's very frustrating. If we can see that can see that the screen, we will see straight away that it's not the right order. We can just keep tapping the tab key. But if you cannot see the report, you will not know what's happening. Something else is we cannot see on the screen, but it's very important. So many reports lack on the use of alternative text. And alternative text is essential for making visual content accessible to users who rely on screen readers. So when images, charts, and other visual elements lack alternative text, the screen readers cannot convey the information to users with visual impairment, and this omission can lead to significant loss of context and understanding. So right, now we understand some of the challenges. I'm sure there are more. Let's now try to understand what is UI design and the web content accessibility guidelines. So user interface design, or UI design, is the process of designing the visual layout and interactive elements of a digital product. And this includes aspects such as layout, typography, color schemes, iconography, and interactive elements. So essentially, UI design is about creating interfaces that users will find visually appealing and also easy to use. Now, if you're wondering why UI design is important in data visualization, well, first, for clarity, right? Good UI design ensures that the data is presented clearly and is easy to understand. And this is crucial because the primary goal of data visualization is to communicate information effectively. And then we have usability. So a well-designed user interface enhances our user experience by making the interactions more intuitive and efficient. So users should be able to navigate through the data, through the dashboard without confusion. And of course, we have aesthetics. So visually appealing designs engage users and make the data more interesting to explore. So good aesthetics can draw users in and keep them engaged within the content. And also consistency. So maintaining uniform look and feel across different visualizations and different pages within your report will help our users to understand and compare data more easily. Consistency in design also aids in comprehension and reduces cognitive load. Now, if you still don't know what WCAG means, so WCAG stands for Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and these are globally recognized standards designed to make the digital content accessible to people with disabilities. And it was designed by the World Wide Web Consortium. These standards are categorized based on 4 main principles, which are perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. And these are commonly known as POUR. WCAG 2.2 is the most recent version, which it has been used officially since October 2023. And the version 3.0, there is already a draft available. WCAG outlines 3 distinct levels of compliance. There is level A, AA, and AAA. And these levels represent different degrees of accessibility that digital content should meet. For level A, addresses the most basic accessibility features, and it's suitable for some, but not all users. Level AA addresses the most common barriers for users, and it aims to make content accessible for a wider range of people. And level AAA addresses the highest level of accessibility, providing the most inclusive experience for all users, including those with significant disabilities. Level AA is the most commonly mandated standard in terms of legal compliance. And following WCAG guidelines is essential for creating inclusive designs that cater to diverse users and abilities. So good UI design, it's not just about making our dashboards look good, it's also about guiding the users through the information efficiently. And accessibility frameworks like the WCAG, they set the foundation, ensuring that elements are perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. And UI takes it further because it also improves clarity. It will help reducing cognitive load by default and will make the dashboards more intuitive for everyone. So when combined, UI principles and accessibility, we can create dashboards that work for everyone. So now we're going to look into how we can combine UI and WCAG to create accessible and impactful reports. So let's use this example, the same that I showed at the beginning of the session, and let's transform into a more accessible and impactful report. So starting by structuring the report with clear layout. In terms of WCAG, we have the principle we have the criterion 3.2.3 on consistent navigation. And it means that we need to ensure that the navigation mechanisms are repeated in the same relative order each time they are presented. And this helps users to predict and understand how to navigate the digital interface. There is also the criterion 3.2.4 on consistent identification. So components that have the same functionality within a set of pages or a set of visualizations, they must be identified consistently. These avoids confusion and help our users to quickly locate and use components. And we also have the criteria 1.3.2 on meaningful sequence. So we need to ensure that the content is presented in a logical order that maintain its meaning and structure. And this will aid the readability and navigation of the digital interface. When it comes to UI, so user interface design, here are some key principles that will help us prevent overwhelming, cluttered layouts, and will ensure a clean and more intuitive experience. So first we have simplicity. So simplicity in UI design involves removing all unnecessary elements and focus on the essential. So you can see here I have removed a lot of charts and elements that were on the initial screen. And this principle helps to structure reports with clear layout by ensuring that only the most important information is presented. And these will help reducing cognitive load. And then we have white space or negative space, which refers to the empty areas between elements in a report. And it plays a crucial role in supporting simplicity by creating a sense of balance and harmony in the report. So it will allow users to easily distinguish between different sections and elements, making the content more readable and accessible. And then we have visual hierarchy and scanning pattern. So visual hierarchy involves arranging elements in a way that guide the user's attention to the most important information first. And effective use of visual hierarchy help users to scan the reports efficiently following natural scanning patterns such as the F pattern or the Z pattern. And this principle ensures that key information is highlighted and easily accessible. And this addresses the WCAG criterion 1.3.2 on meaningful sequence by structuring content in a way that makes sense to users, and also on the criterion 3.2.3 on consistent navigation by providing clear and intuitive navigation paths within the report. And then we have consistency. So consistency in UI design means maintaining uniformity in the use of elements such as fonts, colors, buttons, and navigation. And consistent design will help our users to build like a mental model of the report and will make it easier to predict and understand how the reports work. These will reduce the learning curve, so they're going to spend less time trying to figure out how the reports work, and they will be able to focus more on the insight. And consistency directly addresses the WCAG criterion 3.2.3 on consistent navigation by ensuring the navigation elements are placed sorry, I'm seeing two different screens. So these will consistent identification by ensuring that the similar elements are identified in the same way across the report. And then we have alignment. So alignment refers to the arrangement of elements in a structured and orderly manner within the user interface. So you can see here these orangey boxes around the visuals. It's showing that all the visuals, they are aligned. And these will create a clean and organized layout. This principle is crucial for enhancing readability, usability, and accessibility. So now we can see the difference when we in the design by, we've just simplified. We removed the clutter. Note how the visual hierarchy is built by leveraging the Z-scanning pattern, guiding the users from the entry to the exit, which is the navigation to the next page on the bottom right. And then we also have consistent alignment and generous use of white space that will enhance, as we mentioned before, will enhance readability and overall user experience. Now let's move to typography. Following the WCAG POR principle, perceivable, we have the criterion 1.4.4, which is resized text. So we have to make sure that the text can be resized to up to 200% without loss of content or functionality. And we also have the criterion 1.4.3 on contrast. So we need to ensure that the text and images, they have a contrast ratio of at least 4.5 to 1. And this makes the text readable for all users. And we're going to talk about color a little bit later on. Let's just focus now on the fonts. In terms of UI principle that will help us improving typography, we have first legibility. So legibility refers to how easily individual characters in the text can be distinguished from one another. So ensuring legibility in typography involves selecting appropriate fonts, sizes, and spacing to make the text clear and easy to read. So I have here an example of the same word written in 3 different fonts. The first is in a serif family, which is it's those fonts that have a more decorative format, and it's very difficult to tell some of the letters apart. And then the other 2 fonts, they are both from sans serif, but there is still significant differences in terms of legibility. So if you look the one in the middle, that's the font type Arial, capital I and lowercase l, they look very similar. On the other hand, we have Verdana, which is the example on the bottom, where capital I and lowercase l, they are very easy to distinguish, so you don't have that confusion. So even within sans serif fonts, we have to look into those details. And then we have readability, which refers to how easily and comfortably a block of text can be read and understood. So it will encompass legibility, but also includes other factors such as sentence structure, word choices, and overall layout. High readability ensures that users can quickly and easily comprehend the information being presented. So it will help to reduce cognitive load, and it will enhance comprehension. So here we have an example of a chart title that reads quarterly sales performance metrics across various geographical regions represented through color-coded bars indicating different quarters. And that's horrific. The main issues here is overly long and complex title. It is very difficult to quickly understand what the title is saying, and it lacks clarity and focus. Alternatively, you could have said quarterly sales by region, and this is a short and concise title. It's easy to understand at a glance and clearly indicates the content of the chart. In terms of font size, it's not very clear on the WCAG principle, on the WCAG criterion, what is the font size. You only say that it has to be resized up to 200%. But in terms of good, best practices, we should aim for a body text of no less than 12 points when we are creating digital documents. If you're creating presentations, you may have to increase the size of your font. And we can also use different font sizes within our report, and that will help building a hierarchy. So for titles, for example, we can use font size between 24 and 32 points. And this way, the titles will stand out. And then for the section, the headers, we can use a slightly smaller font size between 18 and 24 points. And this will start building your hierarchy. And then for body text, we can aim for something between 12 and 14 points. And data labels, it is very tempting to use the smaller size available, but try to use 12 points, and you will still keep your chart clear, and it's not, you know, overwhelming. You can still read it, most importantly. So I think it's going to be a little bit difficult to see the difference between on the font size. So I'm just going to share the Power BI report quickly so you can see the before and after. So this is before changing all the font type and also making sure that the font types are consistent. And here is after I change the font type. There are a few elements still missing, but we're going to continue on the session and see what else we can do to improve this report. So next up is improving color choice. So regarding the use of color, the principal perceivable has the guideline about making the content distinguishable. And distinguishable means make it easier for users to see and hear content, including separating foreground from background. And then we have the success criteria 1.4.1 on the use of color, and it defines the color contrast ratio required for different levels of compliance. And the intent of the success criterion is to provide enough contrast between text and its background so it can be read by people with low vision or impaired contrast perception without the use of contrast enhancing assistive technology. And I'm going to show you what are the contrast ratio required just for level AA and AAA. For body text, which is up to 17 points, level AA requires a contrast ratio of 4.5 to 1, and AAA requires a contrast ratio of 7 to 1. And then for large scale text, which is above 18 points, or if in bold, above 14 points, the contrast ratio for level AA should be of 3 to 1, and for level AAA, it should be of 4.5 to 1. In terms of non-text contrast, which pretty much if you have icons or graphics, level AA requires a minimum contrast ratio of 3 to 1, and AAA does not specify. There are exceptions for that if you have any text that is inactive, decorative, or unimportant, and the same if you have logo types. And to just add here an example of good and bad contrast. And although it sounds quite obvious that what is a bad contrast, I see more and more frequently people using, you know, if you look on the light background from the letter T to the right, and not that background from the letter T to the left. So unfortunately, people, I don't know why they do that. I don't know if they think it looks sleek. But we have to understand that we are not creating dashboards for ourselves. We are creating these dashboards for an audience. And so sometimes we may think it looks cool, but it's not actually functional. In terms of colors, it is important to understand the concept of primary, secondary, and accent colors. So primary colors form the foundation of our palette and are used consistently across the dashboard for key elements like headings, charts, and icons. And they set the tone and the structure of the dashboard design, and it's like it provides a base layer for all your visuals. So we should have between 2 to 3 primary colors. And then we have secondary colors. So these are used to add variety and distinction while maintaining harmony with the primary colors. So they can highlight supporting elements such as background sections or less critical data points. And they also help differentiate between they also have differentiating between elements that don't need as much emphasis as those marked by accent colors. So we should also aim to between 2 and 3 secondary colors. And accent colors are used sparingly to draw attention to specific information. These are usually brighter or more vibrant than the primary colors, so they can stand out effectively. So we should have 1 to 2 accent colors. So note that we shouldn't go wild, choosing 10 different colors and use them spread around our report. And in terms of UI principles that will help us improving our color choice, we have here, first of all, use of accent colors. So accent colors will help draw attention to key metrics or data points without overwhelming our users. So we have to limit the use of bold and vibrant colors to emphasize only important elements. If we overuse these colors, it will dilute their impact. And then we have neutral base colors. So neutral base prevents the dashboard from feeling cluttered and ensures that the data, the visualizations, remain the focal point. So we should try to choose soft neutral tones like grays and whites for backgrounds or non-essential elements. And these will allow our data and visuals to stand out while also maintaining a clean design. When designing visuals and reports, it's also extremely important to consider those who are not able to see the difference between certain colors. For example, for those who are colorblind, the ability to differentiate certain hues depends on the contrast ratio. And there are approximately 350 million people around the world which experience some form of color blindness. That's approximately 1 in every 12 males and 1 in every 200 females. And color blindness is the inability to see the difference between certain colors. And in addition to general low vision and color blindness, there are other common conditions that affect the ability to see colors. That includes glaucoma and cataracts. Unfortunately, the most common type of color blindness is the red-green, which makes it difficult for individuals to distinguish between these two colors. And in reporting, we love using RAG colors, which are red, amber, and green. I created a simulation for color blindness, and you can see the two in the middle. They are for red and green color blindness. I would say that the report will be useless. You wouldn't be able to understand. It'd be very difficult, very confusing. For blue color blindness, we can see there are 3 different colors, but we don't really know what they mean. So there are a few problematic combinations that we could avoid. It doesn't mean that we cannot have those colors in our report, but if those colors are used together on the same visualization, we have to find an alternative way to distinguish between those two. So these combinations are red and green, green and brown, blue and purple, light green and yellow, blue and gray, and green and gray. There are tools available that you can use for free. So Adobe has got color contrast checker, as well as a color blindness simulation that you can check if the combination you use is going to cause any accessibility issues. So after taking into consideration WCAG and also the best practice within UI design, you can see that I improved the color choice for this initial dashboard. So it looks considerably better, I think, but it's not ready yet. Now let's look into the built-in accessibility features in Power BI. Power BI enables the creation of more accessible reports through its built-in accessibility features. Some of these features do not require any additional configuration. So from the development side, we don't need to do much, but we need to let our users know that those functions are available and they can make use of them. So keyboard navigation and screen reader compatibility. So they are compatible with Power BI by default. And every object in Power BI that has keyboard navigation is compatible for screen readers. We also have the show data table. So users can view the data individual in a tabular format by selecting these three dots and the option show data table, or using the shortcut Alt-Shift F11. And the table is a screen reader friendly. Next, we have high contrast color view. So Power BI Desktop automatically detects which high contrast theme is being used in Windows and apply those settings. Power BI Service also attempts in detecting the high contrast settings, and you can also change it manually. And then we have focus mode. So users can expand the visual to fill up more of the screen by selecting the focus mode icon. I'm going to show later how to do the focus mode as well as the show data table. And there are also some accessibility features that require configuration. The first one we're going to talk about is titles and labels. So visual and report page titles are very important accessibility features, and they serve as a point of reference for the report consumer. So we have to make sure that titles, axis labels, legend values, and data labels are easy to read and understand. So we're going to fix in our report as well. So I'm going to just open Power BI again. And you can see here, let's first add some title to the map. So if I go to my format pane, and there is the option type, so I'm going to enable. This will make my life a little bit easier. I already added the title. Next, we have this column chart. We already has a title. It says order quantities, but we could give a little bit more detail. What is order quantities? What is it? So we can say order quantities by supplier and product type. So it explains a little bit better what is this visual. On the axis, we have the values, but we don't have the title. So it's something we also need to consider adding. And just make sure that the font size is above 12 points as well. So I'm going to do that for the x-axis and for the y-axis. And the legend, you can also say what is cosmetic, hair care, and skincare. So for my legend, I'm also going to add my title. And if you don't want what is the auto option, you can type in what you want it to appear. Next on is my line chart, which it doesn't have any title. So I'm going to go back up and I'm going to enable the title, which I already put there to make things easier. We need to add for our axis as well. So I'm going to go to the x-axis and add the title. And the y-axis, I will also add the title. Again, just make sure that the font size is above 12 points. And my legend also already has a title. And then my final visual, I will also enable the title. So now we can see the difference before and after when we added the title. So it gives a little bit more context. It helps understanding what we are trying to show on this dashboard. Next, we have markers. So it's best practice to avoid using color as the only way to convey information. So alternatively, we can use markers, so different markers to convey different series. So you can see here on the top, on the top right, I have the use of color as well as the marker. There are other ways of doing having the same distinction. So we can have, so in the middle you can have the line chart, but the line it has different styles. So one line is solid, the other one is dashed. Or you can also add the series label directly on the visual. So we also have a line chart on our screen, on our dashboard. So let's look in how to do it. So if I click here, let's first look into how to add markers. So to add the markers, we can just go on the format pane. There is the option markers. And I'm going to enable to forecast sales and actual sales. And then we just have to make sure that on the shape, they have different shapes. You can choose whatever shape you want, just make sure that they're different. And in our legend, under style, we have to make sure that the legend say this style is line and markers, because if you only have lines, it's still not going to make sense. So make sure that you select line and markers. Or if you don't want that, so let's disable the markers again. You can add the series label. So we can just, I'm going to expand and add the series label. So I'm going to add for the all, I think all there. Yeah, so the only problem, I don't like using the series label directly if I'm having a small visual like this, because there is usually not enough space to have it written. So you end up having to use a very small font, or you end up with not having the whole text written. So let's disable that. My preferred way of distinguishing those different fields is by changing the line style. So I add one of them, I just make a dash, and the other one solid. And now we have alternative text. So according to WCAG, if an image, including icons, if it conveys important information, it must have alternative text that describes its purpose. And alternative text is a simple and yet a very powerful tool that helps people with visual impairments to understand images. So this is a written description that the screen readers will read aloud, allowing the users to grasp the meaning of the visual, even if they cannot see. And we have to make sure that the alt text is meaningful. So it has to describe what is important in the image. Just don't say chart or image. It has to be concise. So don't over-explain, keep it short and relevant. If you're typing in the alternative text directly in the box, there is a limit of 250 characters. And if you have decorative images, they don't need it. Just leave the box empty so the screen reader will skip it. And we also have the option to create conditional formatting. So we can create tags that will make the alternative text more dynamic. And if you choose this option, there is no limit in terms of number of characters. You can write as much as you need. Just remember that you have to be concise. Let's have a look in our report how we can configure alternative text. So if I click on each one of the visuals, I will have, depends how your Power BI is set up. Mine is under properties, and then I have alt text. So there is this box here. And for my map, I said that it's a map displaying all the quantities by location with tooltips showing total revenue, profit, gross margin. And then I give the option use show as table or shift alt F11 for a screen reader friendly data table. So this is an idea that I came up to try to not write too much because of the limiting of characters, but I've never tested. I haven't tested yet. I don't know if it will make sense if someone has a screen reader and will understand what it means. So it's something that I still need to test. And you have to add alternative text for all the elements, including, so this is an icon to move to the next page. And I put alternative text to these icons explaining what it is. If you're not sure what show table the table data means, if you click here, more options, show as a table. And these will bring you to another separate screen that will increase the size of your visual. And this table underneath, it will be compatible with screen reader. And focus mode means if you click here, these little icon here, it will take you to another page that the visual will take up the whole screen, so it makes it easier just to focus on that. Something else that's very important that we should not miss is tab order. So setting the tab order helps keyboard users to navigate the reports in the order that matches the way that we should consume the report. We cannot misunderstand, we cannot make confusion between layer order and tab order. So layer order controls the stacking of visuals, while tab order will determine the sequence of keyboard navigation when you use through the interactive element. So by using the tab key only. So if you don't use the mouse to navigate the report, I'm going to show you how we can configure that. So if I go back to my report, just hide this. Right, so I go back to my report. If I start clicking tab, so the first thing that will go is to this button saying next page. And then if I move, and you can see that everything is very randomly. Now we can see what's on the screen, so we can just keep hitting tab. But if you don't see what's on the screen, and the first thing you see, the screen reader says is move to the next page, you will miss the whole information. So if we go to this selection, we will have the layer order, that's not what we need, and tab order. And to change the tab order is very simple. So let's say that this next page, it has to be the last one. So I'm just moving the arrow to go all the way to the bottom. The first element I wanted is the text, is the title. The second one is the option to show all the filters. And after I show my filters, I want my users to be able to see these slices in the right order. So I'm going to move the first slicer. I think this is all right. Just this one is wrong. There we go. And after, I want to show that you can also now hide the filter. So I'm going to move it after the slicer. There we go. Now, the first visual I want my user to consume is the KPI cards. So this is in position 11. So I'm just going to move all the way up to position number 8, that is after the button hide filters. Next on is the map, which is in the right place. And then is this column chart, which is right. This one is not in the correct place. I'm going to move up. And finally, yeah. So if we start now, if we try to navigate, you can see that it's going to the right elements in the correct order. And Power BI has some built-in themes that helps our report, so it helps us to build more accessible reports. So we have on the view, we have the accessible theme, but it does not mean that all the colors within the accessible theme can be used without causing accessibility issues. So I selected a couple of accessible themes and I run a color blindness simulation. And on the first one, for example, you can see that the first 3 colors, green, amber, and orange, they look the same. So you need to make sure that whatever color you choose, if you're not sure if it's a good or bad combination, test it. Use the tools available online that you can test for free. If you have users to test, it's even better. So even if you go through Microsoft documentation, they will say that it's very important to test the color combinations to ensure accessibility. So now we have a before and after. So when we first had this very chaotic dashboard, and after we went through all the WCAG criteria, as well as user interface design best practices, and we can see that it's much easier, even if you don't have any need or accessibility need. It's easier for you to understand what's being displayed. It's easier to understand, to take insights and make use of this report. So to wrap up, understanding the significance of accessibility ensures that all users can effectively interact with Power BI reports, or actually any digital document you create. Implementing key UI design principles aids in creating intuitive and user-friendly interfaces for all our viewers. And familiarity with WCAG standards is crucial for ensuring compliance and enhancing usability for diverse audiences. By applying these practical techniques, we can create inclusive reports and lead to better engagement and understanding for all users. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to open for any questions.